4,000 criminals off the streets, murderers, rapists. That's a good thing. The death.
Let's cut the list from our poll of what Americans want to hear from the president here, okay? Because while yes, I take your point about the immigration issue and the way people use it, it is far and away, way below the economy and cost of living, Congressman, in terms of what people actually want to hear this president talk about. So as much as
And I think the bottom line is what people want to hear about tomorrow is how we make their lives more affordable. How they get, as you said, whether it's their health care premiums through the roof for lots of Americans in nearly every city and town in the country, people struggling with their energy bills, utility bills, they're dealing with child care costs. The question is, what are you going to do to make my life more affordable so I can pay the bills? And if the president succeeds in figuring out some way to talk about that and how he's going to address his agenda toward that, that could be a good night for him. But right now, he's done nothing, in my opinion, to really take on those issues. And yes, you could distract the other issues, and which he's been trying to do, and talk about everything else but that. But I think that's going to be the bar tomorrow. Can he actually communicate with people? Can he bring the temperature down, or is it just going to be a slugfest with screaming and everyone? And I think,
does he want to bring it?
well, he's so far. That's what I'm hoping. But so far, he hasn't shown an interest in doing that. And also, the challenge is, as Mike talked about, it's one thing to say we're going to make the borders more secure, which I think is important as well. You want to make sure criminals aren't here and gang members aren't here, but how you approach things matters. And people saw what we talked about, right? You've got two dead Americans going to people's Americans' homes, and busting down the doors. You've got ICE agents who aren't trained in their enforcement. They have 7, 8 weeks of training instead of where cops in Jersey have a year's worth of training. So it's how you do these things really matters. And that's where the leadership's going to come in. And we're going to see I'm really curious to see how he's going to talk about how we should approach these issues differently.
I would also add, too, that people are concerned about the way ICE has gone about its business. And I don't think anyone disagrees with us wanting secure borders. No one disagrees with people who commit crime being deported. That should happen. But you can't create your own personal militia, go into blue cities, occupy them, to terrorize people, going into workplaces and schools and places that are supposed to be safe without a warrant from a judge. You have these guys who are not very well trained. They're randos off the street. Some of them actually have criminal records. And so the conversation here is really about this is what they're doing. And it often feels like another distraction to the fact that the economy is in bad shape. Not a single promise that Trump made has been fulfilled. The cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of gas, the cost of energy, taking millions of people off of health care and doing this, saying that things are going great. The State of the Union address is supposed to be an address to the entire country saying, here's who we are as Americans. Here's what matters to all of us. It's supposed to be a pep rally for the entire country. And Trump will get up there like he always does during his speech. He will try to relitigate the 2020 election because he can't help himself. And he'll start going off on these weird tangents that have nothing to do with what the American people want.
Well, first of all, it's hard to unify the country when many Democrats refuse to come tomorrow and stage protests in the middle of the east. Second of all,
You're not going to
respect
right?
with
I'm not going because this president, you don't go to rural cities and terrorize people.
There's part of the
You don't
problem.
tell lies. And you bring up people who come after African Americans. That's why I'm so.
Like Minneapolis, like New York, like Portland, Oregon, that refuse to honor detainer agreement, that refuse to say we will turn over a criminal to federal authorities. What happens is, in a city like New York, they release them back on the street to commit more crime. And so you get ICE agents coming in to actually take them off the street. A controlled handoff of a criminal alien at a county jail is far safer than having ICE agents have to go into the community to get them. That should have been happening. These blue states refuse to cooperate. Of course, but this is what I've been arguing for years. You have to secure the border. We have done that. You have to deport criminal aliens. We are doing it. You need immigration reform. It's why I've been a co-lead on the Dignity Act, last Congress and this Congress, so that people who have been in this country for more than 5 years, who are not committing crimes, who are participating in the workforce, who pay their taxes, who pay a fine, can have a legal status, not a pathway to citizenship, but a legal status to stay in this country. And many
many of them.
But if you bust into someone's house in America, that's one, right? And we should have better.
Of course, if you did, or an American, that's no question. But here's the fundamental problem. Democrats are saying we need a federal municipal arm in order to cooperate. But when you have these retainers being issued for somebody who committed a state crime, and most crimes committed are under state law, why won't Democratic cities and mayors cooperate?
Well, even that. So I was on the show with Casey where you're talking to the mayor of Minneapolis. During the Obama administration, they had ICE agents in the prison, right? Right? Not allowed in some administration. Geez, I wonder why. I wonder why they cooperated during the Obama administration, not cooperating now. And so there's got to be an end to sanctuary city, sanctuary state. You can't, if you're a municipality, you can't just say, we like these laws, we don't like these laws. But how about if you're in the next Democratic administration, we're going to say, we don't like the EPA. We're not going to follow any of the laws the EPA promulgates. We're just not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're just going to do it. It doesn't actually happen. We're going to pay it.
I don't like that we got like that a little bit. Take all the points, all the weeds on the immigration. But tomorrow night, the president is going to give a speech for the same meeting for everybody. Yeah. Some Democrats are going, some are not. Are you going?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not. You're not going. Why are you?
Because I want to hear what the president said about the country, and I want to hear what the president has to say, and what the human beings actually make life more affordable for folks. Hopefully, we actually get a gateway train tunnel back between New York and Jersey. What to do to get their health insurance more affordable, what they're going to do about food, what they're going to do about the tariffs, because by the way, those tariffs are a big tax on a lot of my families, and so we got to.
What do you say that goes in your party or not?
But of course, now it's going to seem like I expect that. Why would that? That's what other people, the Republicans are divided into their self-providers, like you remember, right? And that's everyone's individual choice.
I want to play for you Stephen A. Smith, who has been actually talked about as a potential presidential contender, but he has a message. Stephen A. Smith, the host, he had a message for Democrats for not attending. I want to ask you your thoughts about that.
Some are talking about walking out in the middle of the speech. Others are talking about boycotting it altogether and essentially finding something else to do. I'm here to tell you that neither is. At some point in time, ladies and gentlemen, there's got to be an adult. If you're going to act as juvenile, as petulant, as petty, as you accuse the president of the United States to be, how are you ever going to hold a high moral ground, at least high enough to judge him accordingly? This is the kind of stuff that ticks me off.
Why is he wrong?
Stephen A. Smith is entitled to his opinion, and as Josh said earlier, I respect any decision that any of my colleagues make. Like he decided to attend, that's not participating in this. But for him to go off about petulance and disrespect, it's kind of rich him. And here's the deal: I'm not going to participate in America because he is anti-black. He has taken so many actions during this administration that show he does not care about black people. Firing public employees, many of whom are African American, wanting to regain military bases after Confederate traitors, trying to take down displays that show African American history, trying to do executive orders about the African American Museum. Pete Hegseth, as his Secretary of Defense, stood in a meeting and said, media said, when 40% of the people who in the military are color, 20% are African American. So this overt anti-black agenda, this president does not work for me. So Stephen Smith can have an opinion, but Stephen Smith doesn't vote for me.
I'm going to push back on that thing. Who saved agencies in the first administration?
So let's talk
Well,
about.
Donald Trump. Obama had the funding.
So I want to step a lecture from you about these. And I'm a graduate. I'm a graduate psychologist. So here's the deal. HBCUs have been grossly underfunded for decades, for as long as I can remember. But when you are doing things like taking health care away from the families,
you're not answering the question.
You're not listening. When you take away food assistance, when you do things like that that hurt the families, you're hurting the kids who are going to HBCUs. Most of the kids who go to HBCUs are first generation college people, and they come from families of immigrants. So
we're just the dollar. I'm going to
say this because that's not free. A lot of funding.
Putting more African out of jail than any other president in history of this republic.
Here's the deal. Donald Trump in this term is anti-black.
event this weekend that Newsom is calling it fake effing outrage. But President Trump rejects multiple reports that a top general believes there are serious risks in attacking Iran, but are the concerns warranted? We'll see.
Find your ups and downs, and all the in-betweens. Find your groove. Look.
I see it right. There are only bones left in that fish, and yet it's still swimming. Awesome.
Definitely watch more on that short.
Daddy, birthday. Download Net Short for free if you want more episodes.
It's a long island. It's a food.
Masters of the house. Masters of the house. Just once. There's problems that they